Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to another episode of Copy Guy Gaming. Today I'm going to give you some thoughts on Void Bastards. Now this won't be an actual review since I've yet to finish the game and it wouldn't be fair to give a score or anything based off of that, but I have logged enough hours into it to give you my thoughts on what I've experienced so far. I will be breaking these thoughts down into 4 categories: story, gameplay, graphics, and sound. With that in mind, let's get started with the story. So as far as the plot of Void Bastards goes, it's a framework. It's nothing too exciting. You're playing as a variety of prisoners, I guess you would call them, but the game refers to them as clients. And you're going onto these various ships. You're looking for parts to build the FTL of a ship. And the opening cinematic kind of shows your character dying, trying to get to it, and then you start out as a new character. And that kind of breaks it down to that you're going to die a lot. That's the story. You're cannon fodder essentially to get these parts, and nobody cares. But that's kind of nice because it doesn't really get you attached to anybody, and I found that in the plain and simple it's passable because it really builds the ground for what you'll be doing, and that's all it needs to do. And with all that said, I think it's time to focus on the real meat and potatoes of this, and that's the gameplay. Void Bastards at its core is a roguelike strategic FPS survival game with a dash of Oregon Trail sprinkled in. Now, this sounds like there's a lot going on, but allow me to try and break this down for you. The main core of this game, as I mentioned before, is to find supplies in order to build parts to fix a main ship. In order to do this, you're going to be flying around the nebula attempting to find these parts. While obtaining these parts, you will need to traverse in a variety of paths. These parts will be found on various ships that will be highlighted on the map. Along the way though, you will need to stop at other ships and stores in order to gather supplies such as food and fuel to keep from starving or being stuck in the bowels of space. Along with the essentials, you will find the odd part and recyclable that can be used to build other parts that will upgrade weapons, character stats, and give some extra lives down the road. From this map perspective, your player will get to see what sorts of supplies, enemies, and conditions you will find on each ship. This allows you to determine how to approach the ship and whether it is worth your time to explore this. I personally found there were some situations on these ships where it was best to avoid going in due to either low health or I didn't necessarily need those supplies, and just generally the risk wasn't worth the reward. Once inside a ship though, the game switches to an FPS perspective. I heard this game is compared to BioShock or other games from Ken Levine's team. And while I did see this, I felt more like I was playing an old school Doom game. I say this because the way enemies float around the screen kind of gave me that vibe, but that's neither here nor there, I'll digress. But once you're walking around the holes of these abandoned crafts, it's going to be incumbent on you to navigate around, looking for these supplies and escaping the ship. There will be different terminals depending on the ship. There'll be helms and atmospheric where you can restore oxygen. There'll be health terminals and theater, operating theater. And I found the best strategy, unless the game tells you the power's out in a certain ship, and if there is one, I go straight to the helm. I collect the map, I get all the parts, and I get out of there as quick as possible because you don't want to stay in there too long or enemies are going to flood you. And the key to getting these items is you will have limited ammo, so sneaking is your best strategy. And these citizens will come after you if they see you. They're crazy. And each of these requires a unique strategy, especially once you get deeper into the nebula. I found past part 3 it starts getting really crazy. In some cases though, you're gonna see that the enemies are really bad. There are some enemies you can't even really fight early on, so you're gonna want to hide, you're gonna learn to sneak, you're gonna learn to crawl. But in a word, this is why the developers are referring to this as a strategic FPS, and I get that. And the main gimmick overall of this game is the roguelike mechanics. You're going to die a lot in this game, as I mentioned before. And that's okay, because this means you're going to get a wide variety of play styles because each character has different buffs and debuffs that you have to work around. And some of these would consist of having a short character who doesn't need to worry about ducking, so you're just kind of crawling around the map and you can sneak easier and stuff like that. And then you will also have a colorblind character. They won't be able to tell if a door is locked or unlocked, if the power's off or if something's unlocked. So you're going to be doing that. And then other characters I saw were a guy who screams when he gets an item. That's just kind of the stuff you'd be dealing with. But this game isn't as bad as other roguelikes where when you die you lose everything. But you will get to keep the weapons and armor and other items you crafted, and that's nice because you spend a lot of time digging around these ships looking for parts, and that really helps make the game feel better because when you die, the AI is kind of like, hey, some guy left some stuff here, why don't you use it? And I appreciated that. I appreciated that they let me keep what I had and what I worked for, and that was nice. And you also get to keep the parts for the main quest you're doing as well if you got them during your last playthrough. Which brings me to the graphics of this game, and I have not a lot to say here, but let's get to it. Graphically speaking, this isn't your high-end AAA game that could be expected from the FPS genre, but this game is really nice to look at. It's really pretty. I found the fact that Void Bastards looked like a comic book to be rather delightful. That's kind of cool. And they also use this aesthetic to their cutscenes as well, where you were in comic book panels and you kind of had to hit RB in order to see the next panel, and you read it like a comic book, and that's really cool. I also found that the backdrops were rather delightful. In this dark, dreary ship, you had like bright purples, vibrant blues, you had all these great colors, and everything looked really cool. There was a lot of crisp things going on there, and that's all I can say. It's just a nice game to look at. And moving on from there, we're going to talk about the sound, which I have a little bit of a lesser opinion of, but we'll get into that. The sound's nothing to get too excited about. As far as the music goes, we're going to talk about that. It's pretty bog standard. It's electronica. There's not much to write home about. And while I say that in a bad way, it's not bad. It's good music. It fits the tone of the game, but it's not going to be something like the Ocarina of Time where you're going to be humming the Legend of Zelda theme. It's not going to be anything spectacular. But it works, and that's all that matters. And moving on to the voice acting, it's good, it's fine, but there were aspects of it, such as with the enemies when they would scream at you or insult you. I had to turn my TV up quite a few times to understand what they were saying, because there's a lot of distortion going on. I just kind of like, and you know, it's kind of distracting and it doesn't really add up. But once you kind of hear what they're saying, it is funny. It's funny. It's hilarious. It's got a bit of British humor to it. But the cutscene voice acting is great. The main AI you interact with, I can't remember his name, but he's very good. That's well acted. And along with that, if you do have to have your TV turned down because you're in like a room area where it has to be quiet or something, there are the voice boxes in the cutscenes, since it does take advantage of that stylized comic book aesthetic, that kind of give you what's being said, and that's nice. But as far as the sound, it's not bad, but I'm not gonna get too excited about it, I guess would be what I would say at the end of the day. But if you like it, good for you. Moving on to my conclusions. At the end of the day, you're asking, is Void Bastards a game I want to pick up? I would say it depends. If you're okay with a thin plot and a focus on survival and scavenging, I'd say go for it. But if you really want a heavy plot with a lot of like open world aspects, a lot of deep gameplay, this probably isn't the game for you. I'm just going to say it. I personally couldn't recommend this game enough, but I know there are people who may not get the same thrill going from place to place and scavenging for supplies and food, but I get that. That's fine, and I understand that. But as far as I'm concerned, this game is a real gem. And I can see this game being on my top titles of 2019, and it's probably going to be on my top 10 list. I'm just going to say it. And you can pick this game up on Game Pass if you have an Xbox. I don't know if it's on the Ultimate now, but as far as the Xbox Game Pass, it is on there. So if you want to play it for free, I'd say go for it, because you're not going to go wrong with this game. Plus, you've already paid for the Game Pass subscription. Why not download it? What did you think of Void Bastards? Did you like it? I'd like to hear your comments in the section below. Do you agree with me or am I wrong here? I would like to know. Also, don't forget to hit that bell for notifications, subscribe, like this video or dislike if that's what you choose. I hope you guys have a wonderful day. I'll see you in the next video, and cheers. Want to keep up with Coffee Guy Gaming on social media? Well, my links are in the description below and my handles are currently on screen. It'd be a big help if you would go ahead and follow me there, where you'll get to see more of my thoughts about gaming and other topics.